Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Howell, and my case study presentation is about Gideon versus Wainwright and how we can use his case to better understand indigent defense in the criminal justice system. Clarence Gideon was charged with a felony breaking and entering in Florida State Court in 1963. He requested the court appoint a lawyer for him, but according to Florida state law at the time, an attorney may only be appointed to an indigent defendant in capital cases, so the trial court did not provide him with one. He then went on to represent himself in trial, and he was found guilty. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He filed a habeas corpus petition arguing that they violated his constitutional right to be represented by counsel, but it was rejected by the Florida Supreme Court. Historically, individuals who are described as indigent have lacked proper legal representation, as different jurisdictions have separate standards for who is considered indigent. It's estimated that in recent years, about 80% of all criminal defendants are provided publicly funded attorneys because of indigency. Gideon versus Wainwright helped to hold that the Sixth Amendment guaranteed the poor criminal defendants will receive legal representation free of charge. Without this case, there would be likely far too many individuals in jail or in prison who did not actually commit a crime or were given a much harsher sentence for a minor crime, simply because they could not afford a proper attorney. Indigent criminal defendants are essentially powerless. The lawyers that are appointed to these defendants have a great deal of control over how the case goes once in the courtroom, as well as the outcome of the case. The defendant is putting their trust in this public defender because they do not have any other options, and they must have faith that their attorney is doing what's best for them, but that doesn't always happen. Public Defense Service Administration varies by jurisdiction, and it can be carried out by a state, county, city, individual judge, or by every possible combination of these. As of 2010, 18 states have statewide commissions overseeing statewide public defense systems. 2 states have elected public defenders for each county or jurisdiction. 8 states have a state public defender operating the system throughout the state, and 11 states fall into a hybrid category. In the remaining 11 states, individual counties and or cities control the administration of trial-level indigent defense services, and there's no state oversight, meaning that every state essentially operates on a different level. The criminal process is consistently being delayed by the lack of resources provided for indigent defense. There has consistently been a crisis for the decades since Gideon versus Wainwright, including excessive caseloads, poor funding, and lack of training. This can lead to the defendant sitting in jail for excessive months before even being able to speak to their legal representation, or even not getting enough time before court to properly spend time with their attorney and understand what's going on. The Supreme Court ruling of Gideon versus Wainwright solidified the need for public defenders to take indigent cases, highlighting the importance of equal representation regardless of net worth. There are several cases in which someone is convicted for a crime they didn't commit, and the ability for an indigent individual to receive legal representation can help ensure that they are not convicted for something they didn't do because they simply could not afford an attorney to prove their innocence. The legal system is very complicated, and professionals working within the system must take several years of schooling in order to understand the law themselves. An average individual will have somewhat of an understanding of the law, but certainly not enough to properly represent themselves because they couldn't afford someone else to help them. As previously stated, there are several flaws within the public defender system, including funding, caseload, and lack of training. This makes it much harder for the indigent defender to receive proper defense in which the public defender has both the time and educational capacity to accurately defend their client. We often view the criminal justice system as a well-oiled machine, but knowing that something like the public defense system has a variety of issues can make us feel that there are tens of thousands of people who are not being properly represented in the system. Here's a list of some of the references I used, but thank you for watching my presentation.